Most men over 60 think about color in terms of what they like, what they have always worn, what feels familiar. And this is understandable. Color preference is one of the most personal elements of how a man dresses, and there is nothing wrong with having preferences. The problem is when those preferences are quietly working against the appearance rather than for it, when the colors a man has been reaching for years are doing something specific and invisible to his face, his overall impression, and how old he appears to be. This is the conversation most style advice never has directly. Not just which colors look good in the abstract, but which colors are adding years to a specific man at a specific stage of life, and why. Because at 60, the face has changed, the hair has changed, the skin tone has shifted, and the colors that worked at 40, that complemented the deeper skin tone, the darker hair, the more saturated complexion, often work considerably less well at 60, for reasons that are specific and understandable once they are explained. This video is about those reasons, about the specific color mistakes that make men over 60 look older than they are, not because they are wearing bad colors, but because they are wearing colors that no longer work for the face they actually have. This channel is about classic menswear, timeless style, and the practical decisions that help men over 60 look sharp. Color is one of those decisions, and today we are going into the mistakes, one by one, and the better alternatives for each one. The first color mistake is the one with the most immediate and visible impact on the face, wearing dark, heavily saturated shirts close to the face in everyday situations. Dark navy shirts, dark gray shirts, black shirts, worn as the primary garment closest to the neck and jaw, create a specific visual problem for men over 60 that they did not have at 40. At 40, most men have a skin tone with enough warmth and saturation to create natural contrast against dark fabrics. The face reads clearly against the dark shirt because the face itself has enough visual energy. At 60, the skin has typically lightened slightly, the undertones have cooled, and the contrast relationship with dark fabrics has shifted. A dark shirt close to the face at 60 does not create the same contrast it did at 40. It creates a heavy, closed quality at the neckline that reads as slightly oppressive, the dark pulling downward where the face needs to go upward. There is also a specific shadow effect that dark shirts create near the face of a man with gray or white hair. The hair above is light, the shirt below is dark, and the face is caught between two competing high-contrast elements with no breathing room. The result is that the features appear compressed, the eyes less bright, the skin less alive, the jaw less defined, not because anything is wrong with the face, but because the color environment around it is working against it. The correction is straightforward. Keep dark colors below the collar, as trouser colors, as jean colors, as the dark anchor of the lower body, and use lighter, more face-lifting colors at the shirt level. White, pale blue, stone, pale pink, soft sage, these colors create the contrast relationship that the face needs at 60. They reflect light upward toward the jaw, the eyes, the skin. They make the face read brighter and more alive. And they do this without any visible effort, the color simply doing its job, invisibly, every time the man puts on the shirt. The second color mistake is equally common and equally invisible until it is named. Wearing warm beige and mid-tan tones close to the face. Camel blazers worn with no shirt collar visible. Warm sand polos. Mid-tan cotton shirts. These are colors that appear warm and approachable in the shop, and they are as bottom colors, as blazer colors, as warm accents. But worn directly against the face, particularly against the silver or white hair that most men over 60 have, they create a tonal confusion. The warm mid-tan of the fabric and the warm undertones of the skin blend rather than contrast, and the result is a face that loses definition. The jaw less clear, the features slightly flattened, the overall impression washed out rather than defined. This is why a camel blazer works so well over a white polo or a pale blue Oxford, but noticeably less well over a mid-tan shirt of similar tone. The blazer in camel is providing warmth from the second layer outward, which is exactly where warmth should come from. The shirt directly against the face should be providing contrast and definition, not additional warmth that competes with the face. If you are finding this useful, the kind of specific color insight that most men have never been given directly, go ahead and subscribe. This channel is built around exactly this level of practical detail, and there is a great deal more coming on every aspect of how men over 60 can make better decisions about how they look. The third color mistake applies specifically to men with gray or white hair, which is most men over 60, wearing very dark brown tones close to the face. Dark brown shirts, very dark chocolate-toned polos, the deep brown end of the warm spectrum. Dark brown is an excellent color for shoes, for leather goods, for accessories, but worn as a shirt or a polo directly against silver or white hair, the dark warm tone creates a color conflict with the cool silver above it. The warmth of the brown fights against the coolness of the hair, and the result is a slight visual discord at the neckline, the face looking slightly unresolved, the hair and the shirt seeming to belong to different color systems. The warm browns belong at the base, at the shoe, the belt, the leather strap. From the collar up, the palette should move toward cooler, cleaner, more face-lifting tones. This does not mean cold or colorless. Pale blue is a warm-leaning cool. Soft sage carries gentle warmth. White has an inherent warmth in its fullness. These are the tones that connect naturally to silver and white hair rather than conflicting with it. The fourth color mistake is one that most men associate with color confidence, but that almost always backfires: wearing very high saturation, vivid colors close to the face. A bright cobalt blue shirt, a vivid green polo, a saturated red or orange top layer. These colors have genuine visual energy, which is precisely the problem when worn close to the face of a man over 60. The vivid color draws the eye before the face does. The observer registers the color first, and the face, which should always be the primary visual element, becomes a secondary impression. The result is a man who is remembered for his shirt, not for himself. This applies equally to patterns at high contrast or saturation. A very busy plaid, a high contrast stripe, a bold graphic print, worn as the primary top layer. These all create the same primary color problem. The pattern or color becomes the focal point, and the man behind it becomes the supporting element. On a younger man, vivid color can communicate energy and personality. On a man over 60, it communicates an attempt at visibility that is working against the quiet authority that is far more powerful. There is a specific version of this mistake that appears most often in summer: the bright linen shirt in turquoise, coral, or vivid yellow. These colors feel appropriate for warm weather and a casual holiday setting, and in isolation, as fabric swatches, they are appealing. But worn against the face of a man over 60, the combination of high saturation and warm climate lighting creates a color environment where the shirt completely overwhelms the face, the man disappears behind the color, and whatever authority, composure and presence he has worked to establish with his posture, grooming and overall appearance is visually cancelled by a single overpowering color choice. Now I want to hear directly from you. When you look at your wardrobe and think about the colors closest to your face, the shirts, the polos, the first layer, which of these four mistakes do you think you are making most often? Tell me in the comments. I read every one, and I want to know exactly where most men over 60 are starting from on color. The positive alternative to all four mistakes is the same small palette we have discussed on this channel before, but approached from a new angle, specifically from the perspective of what these colors do to the face. White reflects light upward and creates maximum facial definition. Pale blue, particularly the soft, slightly grayed versions rather than saturated cobalt, connects to silver hair naturally and creates a clean, cool contrast at the jaw. Stone and soft khaki provide subtle warmth without the tonal confusion of mid-tan, and pale pink or soft sage, for the man who wants gentle color without saturation, both work with the cooled skin tone and silver hair of the mature face in ways that darker or more vivid colors cannot. The reason these specific, pale, subtle colors work so consistently for men over 60 is not that they are inherently superior colors, it is that they create the right relationship between the fabric and the face. The fabric becomes background and the face becomes foreground. The color supports the man rather than competing with him. And this relationship, fabric supporting face rather than replacing it, is the single most important color principle for any man whose face has changed enough with age that the contrast relationships he relied on at 40 no longer function in the same way. These are not boring colors. They are powerful colors, but their power operates differently from the power of vivid or dark colors. A vivid color announces itself loudly. A pale blue shirt near a silver-haired man's face lifts the entire impression of the man quietly and consistently, every time, without ever drawing attention to itself. The color is working. Nobody sees it working. Everyone simply sees a man who looks better than he did in the dark shirt he wore before. Here is the complete color framework. Keep dark colors, navy, charcoal, dark gray, below the collar, where they anchor and ground the lower body. Keep warm midtones, camel, tan, dark brown at the second layer out or below, where their warmth adds depth without flattening the face. Avoid high saturation at the shirt level. The face is the focal point, not the color. And build the first layer, the shirt, the polo, the layer closest to the face from white, pale blue, stone or soft sage. A man over 60 who applies this color framework consistently will notice something specific within a few weeks. The people he interacts with will begin engaging with his face, his eyes, his expression, his presence, more directly, not because he looks younger, because the color closest to his face is no longer pulling against him, it is supporting him. And the face, freed from the competition of colors that were working against it, simply reads more clearly, more fully and more powerfully than it did before. So here is the challenge. This week, look at the shirts and polos in your wardrobe that live closest to your face. Identify the ones that fall into the 4 problem categories: too dark, too mid-tan, too dark brown, too vivid. Set them aside. Wear only the pale, contrasting, face-lifting options for 1 week. Notice the difference in how people look at you, how photographs read, and how the face in the mirror appears each morning. If you found this useful, share it and subscribe. This is exactly the kind of specific, practical detail that changes how a man looks without requiring a new wardrobe. In the next video, we are going into the jeans mistakes that make men over 60 look dated and the specific changes that fix every one of them. You will not want to miss that one.